What's going on, everyone? New year, new Los Angeles Lakers. This is the year that the Lakers hopefully turn it around. But on a serious note, Rob Pelinka does have a lot that he needs to weigh and a lot of just kind of things up in the air when it comes to Lakers, right? Primarily Anthony Davis. How far away are we from Anthony Davis? Now, the Lakers, the next 5 games or so are very winnable games. Right? I'm not saying that they're going to sweep the board, but they very well could and get closer to that play-in spot, get closer to just 500 in general, and kind of have a nice little turnaround, right? You had Walker and Reeves, who have not played very well the last few games, but the Lakers still able to get a win. Walker didn't even play in the last game, so I imagine those two guys kind of get back into the swing of things. They've been too consistent all year to just say, oh, because of 2 or 3 games, they've fallen off or anything. So I imagine that they'll be able to come back. Can LeBron continue to carry this workload? That's of real concern, right? He's 38. He's only getting older by the day. And he just put on an absolute heroics and just kind of turned back the clock in order for us to get that win against Atlanta. And now we go and we play the Hornets for our next game. And that's a game that we absolutely have to win. And, we ended on a good note. Let's start the new year on a good note and then kind of drive towards that play-in. I don't believe that the season is over. I know a lot of Laker fans believe that it's done, it's over, all that. But look, we are close enough and within range, luckily, because the West is so close to each other this season and so wide open in general that I really do believe that the Lakers have an opportunity to get into a play-in and maybe even a playoff spot. They're only 5 games out of an actual playoff spot to where they wouldn't even have to be in the play-in. And when you look at the list of teams, there aren't teams that I look at and go, man, the Lakers aren't going to catch these teams, like the Thunder, teams like that. I believe the Lakers are better than those teams, and with Anthony Davis back, I do believe that they can do that. Now, obviously, Rob Pelinka, we're in January, so therefore, he's got to start weighing, is it worth doing a trade? Up until this point, in likely mid-January, we very likely aren't going to get a trade done, right? I mean, I do imagine the rumors and the speculation of deals and stuff will start to ramp up as we get closer, especially if the Lakers can go on a little win streak or win, say, 4 out of the next 5 or whatever, 4 out of the next 6, something like that, then I definitely think we could start seeing the ramp up of just, rumors towards a Lakers trade. Because as we get closer to mid-January, late January, that's when teams really do become willing to start making moves, start making trades. We'll find out which teams are going to be the buyers, which teams are going to be the sellers, because up until, mid-January, teams aren't in a rush. There's not really an incentive to make a trade because they're still trying to figure out, okay, what players do we really want? What players do we see as a piece for our future? Is it worth, maybe they're in the middle of, the pack, and it's do we want to really be here, maybe make a push, or do we want to, take a step back and get a better draft pick? A team like Indiana, right? Indiana, they had all the intentions in the world this year to kind of blow it up, start over, try to get, a Victor Wembanyama or something, and they've had a very successful season, right? They're doing really good. Buddy Hield and Miles Turner have played great for them. They're working on a new contract with Miles Turner. But if Miles Turner if they can't come to an agreement on a contract, do they look at it as hey, we're probably not winning the championship this year. We're probably so all we're doing is hurting our draft picks. So do we just say, okay, well, Miles Turner's probably leaving in the offseason. Let's go get something for Miles Turner. And then if we can move off of Buddy Hield, that could open up the Lakers and Pacers deal once again. That's a huge possibility. I'm not saying that it will. Obviously, if Miles Turner signs an extension, well, then there's the end of that. But again, just using them as an example, you can see that there are other teams that may be looking at the same way, right? The Hornets, for example, right? They could be looking at, okay, well, we're going to re-sign Bridges. So let's go and, work something out there. And then once we get that finalized, let's go and end up moving off and become sellers. That's a real possibility. Now, Anthony Davis, right? If Anthony Davis probably isn't coming back till mid-January. And if he does come back in mid-January, if we're close and we're really making a push, because again, we're only 3 games out of a play-in spot, which isn't a lot, especially in the NBA, right? You go on a nice little run. Like I said, you win 5 out of 6 or something like that, you might be looking at a play-in spot. You might be on the inside looking out rather than the outside looking in. Anthony Davis returns, all of a sudden it's okay, well, we got some real momentum here, right? We had a nice little win streak. We got our best player back. If he can continue to be dominant like he was prior, then boom, all the more power to you. And that might also incentivize a big trade or a big deal for Rob Pelinka. Now, I don't necessarily think that they're going to do the home run deal unless one materializes. But it's also going to come down to Anthony Davis, right? Like, if you have Anthony Davis and he's playing at a dominant level and we can squeeze, or like, let's say by like the end of January or late January, we're, a game and a half, 2 games out of an actual playoff spot. Well, now that incentivizes Rob Pelinka to go get a deal done. That incentivizes the Lakers organization to get a deal done, because it's like, okay, like if we make it to the playoffs, then we don't even have to play the play-in. We get that extra rest. You got a healthy Anthony Davis. You got a healthy LeBron James. We can really make a push here. Maybe end up stumbling into the 6th seed or something like that. It's not out of the realm of possibility, especially with Anthony Davis. If Anthony Davis comes back and he plays that dominant monster Anthony Davis that we saw, the Lakers have a chance, right? And then once you get into the playoffs, like I said, the West is so wide open. Now, I'm not saying that the Lakers are a contender as currently constructed, but they still have Anthony Davis and LeBron James, right? And so if you could go into the future and tell me that the Lakers won the championship, I don't think anyone would be surprised, because everyone would be like, well, you still have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, right? Like that would be the whole argument. Is that like, yeah, the team sucks, but LeBron James and Anthony Davis are 2 top 10 players in the league. So that is always a benefit that the Lakers have. And if Anthony Davis can come in and just be that dominant force, then the idea of a trade really becomes an incentive. And then it just comes down to what type of trade. Now, the reason I'm big on a trade still is because we need pieces for now and the future. And they only have about 30 to 32 million in cap space, right? So once you sign like 1 or 2 guys, like let's say you do sign Miles Turner in the offseason, you're probably paying him roughly 25 million. There's all your money. You got like 7 million left over, which you probably use to keep Reeves or Walker, one of those two. Maybe you give that to Reeves, and then, you sign Walker with the non-bird rights. You kind of go with the Bobby Portis route where, he signs multi-year deal at like 7.7 million. Then you get that. And then you have your mid-level, and then you have your biannual. And that's how you piece your team together. But again, is that a team that can contend? Or if you could do, like I mentioned earlier, like a Hornets deal, right? Well, now you got the Hornets deal. Okay, well, great. We got 3-4 players in that deal, and they're all going to be here for the next several seasons. Even if you don't win anything this year, what you're doing is you're building that chemistry. You're building that, the camaraderie. You're building the relations between these players. And now you got a full off season, and then you got a full training camp. And maybe now you can make some noise, right? Especially if you could do a deal like the Hornets deal, where if you could get like Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, Kelly Oubre, and like a PJ Washington, like, yes, it would suck to move Russ. And look, I'm one of the biggest Russ stands there are, right? I mean, I defend Russ every opportunity that I have, because I just love what he's done and what he's been able to kind of turn it around when everybody, like, Russ got so much heat. And I was like, my whole thing was like, give him an opportunity. Like, let's wait and see. Like, so many people were so quick to rush and judge Russell Westbrook that it wasn't that I was like unrealistic. I was just asking, like, let's wait and give it a second. Like, let's see what he does, like, before you just assume he's the worst of him, right? And I would do that for anybody. I would expect that for anybody. Like, why just assume you're going to fail rather than like giving somebody a fair opportunity to do so? And Russ has been thriving, and he's been great, especially off the bench. When we don't have Russ, our bench is non-existent. Like, it is terrible. But if you can use Russ to get long-term pieces, especially if you don't see Russ for the future, right? Which I don't think that they're going to continue this marriage after this year, personally. Maybe. But I think realistically, they both will probably go their separate ways. And if you're the Lakers and you can go and turn Russ into multiple pieces that, again, like a Hornets deal, and get 4 pieces, and, still have a pick or 2 to go and make another move, then you're in a great position, right? And if you're the Lakers, like, all right, cool. If you could get, like I said, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, and, Kelly Oubre, PJ Washington, you got your wing depth, you got your size, you got starting level talent, which the Lakers really need. And now what that does is, like, yes, you're losing all the production from Russ off the bench, but what you get is you get all the guys that were being productive in the starting unit. All of those guys now get to go to the bench, which is their more natural roles. So everybody now gets to kind of fall in line, and now you'll get more production. And you'll get more production from your starting unit because you actually have starting level players and defenders and wing size and all of those things, right? Like now you go a starting five of like, Dennis Schroeder, Patrick Beverly, Lonnie Walker, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis to a starting five of like, you could go Schroeder, or you could have him come off the bench, or you could go, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, Kelly Oubre, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. That's a much, 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 much better starting five. And then you still have PJ Washington, Walker, Reeves, Dennis Schroeder, all these guys coming off the Thomas Bryant, all these guys coming off the bench. You'd probably still have, either a Patrick Beverly and a first, or so maybe you could go get a center, right? Maybe you could go take that first with Patrick Beverly and go get, a Yaka Pirtle or something if you wanted to, right? And then maybe bring Kelly Oubre off the bench and have, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Yaka Pirtle. Like, that's a contender in my opinion. And even if they don't win it this year, again, you give a full offseason, a full training camp for them to all put it together. They'd have the bird rights on everybody so they could re-sign everybody, and they'd be good to go off to the races. They're a deep team. They're a good team. However you shake it, they're in a good position, right? So this is why. And look, this season we're going to go, as of right now, unless, something major happens, as of right now, we go as far as our big three takes us. Right, especially Anthony Davis. We need Anthony Davis. But Russ has got to continue to find that balance between aggressive Russ and getting buckets and, set up Russ, right? And I still believe if he can better balance that, watch out, right? Because Russ has kind of been more playmaker and not as aggressive at times as we would need him and like him to be. But if Russ can give us like 15, 7 and 10, right? Like all of a sudden that extra 3, 4, 5 points a game that Russ is giving you can really be the difference between winning and losing games, right? Like Russ is already giving us 40 points in bench production with just him solo, right? Because he's giving you, 10 to 12 a game and then giving you, 10 to 12 assists a game. And all of a sudden, you're getting his 12 points plus another 30 plus and just, 3 points, layups, things like that. So you're getting that production. You're getting, 30 plus points a game from Russell Westbrook. If he can just give you the scoring and give you a couple more 15 to 20 point games with the assists, then I think Russ could really kind of help turn the tides. Anthony Davis, if he can come back and continue to be dominant Anthony Davis, Lakers are always in every game. And then LeBron has just shown that he's still got it, right? Like he's been phenomenal the last few games. So if he can continue that and the role guys can continue to step up, even if you don't make a trade, I'm still going to ride with the team, right? And I still believe you have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook going into the playoffs. So we'll see. This new year is going to be very interesting, and we'll see how this all plays out. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below.